Hello vinyl community, I'm coming at you with Vinyl Spins number 6. Hope you enjoy it. So before I get into things, I would like to give a couple of shout outs. And the first one I'd like to give a shout out to is Chris at Dixieland Farm. I did a video last week talking about films and books related to the subject of vinyl and the passion for vinyl. He reminded me that there is a very good film that you can view on YouTube called Vinyl, and to me this is a very interesting character study. It can be a little bit depressing at times, looking at how obsessive some of these people are. I highly recommend checking it out. It was done in the late 80s, maybe early 90s, but it is a fascinating watch, and please check out the link below. And thanks, Chris, for reminding me of that wonderful video along with several others. We had a nice exchange going. The next thing I did want to mention was I did volunteer to help our friend Vinyl Rewind, Eric, on flattening this guy out. So the first LP he showed in one of his recent clips, it was warped and you can see it. I offered to try and help him out, so I'm in the process of trying to flatten it. I've gone through about 6 different bake cycles now, and it's slowly getting reduced, so I'm hoping that I can save this guy for Eric. But one of the things I want to mention, so this is coming from a Beach Boys comp that was put out in Germany, it looks like. One of the things that I do not like about some of the European pressings is that the covers are very flimsy. So you can see this is a very flimsy cover. And when you get a flimsy cover like this, it doesn't help the LP out, especially if you're stacking them just slightly, because you'll develop warps over time. When I was cleaning these guys up, though, I noticed that the second LP also had a warp, and you can see here some video of me actually working on the first LP. The second LP here, and show you. You can see that. You can see that even this guy is warped, and can't see it so much here, but in the video of the first LP you can see it. So I'm hoping that I will then bake this guy a little bit and see if I can't flatten out the warp on this guy. Very interesting comp, it looks like. Once I clean it up and get them flattened out, I'm going to try it on my turntable, see what this guy sounds like, and get it shipped right back to Eric. Now let's get into what I've been playing this week. So first up, and a shout out, this is one of the first things I had to play this week. I got it in the mail. I contacted Mr. Johnk, TechHead, about it, and as soon as I got it, I had to clean it up, and once I cleaned it up, he gave me one of these nice Deep Techno FM stickers, and I slapped it on a kind of a generic cover. And this guy's phenomenal. This is a really good work of electro, dub, techno. So if you're into this type of music, definitely check this guy out. And with that, let's segue to a clip of me playing it. And John, if you want me to take this down, I definitely can, but I definitely like to advertise your music, so here's the clip. So I hope you enjoyed the clip. Definitely pick up this album if you can. I guess he doesn't have too many copies, but I think he still has a few on hand, so if you're interested, check out his link down below. Here's some of the other things that I've been playing this week. Really pretty much a mixed bag. I had some stuff that I've had on pre-order for a while come in. First up, Music Matters dropped their next 2 releases for this month. Both wonderful records. First one I cleaned up and I started to play was Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers, The Big Beat. This is by far my most favorite Jazz Messengers lineup. primarily because it has Lee Morgan and Wayne Shorter. I just love that combo with Art Blakey, and of course you got Bobby Timmons and Jimmy Merritt as well. This album, however, with that lineup is not my favorite. My favorite is A Night in Tunisia, but this is also very good. So wonderful Music Matters pressing with the gatefold, with the archival photos. Nice glossy cover, thick jacket, and this particular one was on a 47th West 63rd label. So they do a very good job at doing the research on this and putting out a good quality product. This thing was pressed at RTI, of course, and dead silent. So if you haven't heard this album, I recommend giving it a listen. Anything with Lee Morgan and Wayne Shorter and the Jazz Messengers lineup is just fantastic in my opinion. The next thing that Music Matters dropped along with the Big Beat was Blue and Sentimental by Quebec. Now Quebec, I don't see his work featured too much within the VC. This particular album was issued by Analog Productions several years back on a double 45 RPM set. From what I've read online, this guy smokes that 45 RPM set, and you've seen some of the other Analog Production stuff that I've featured, at least in the Blue Note category, and the production on it is shoddy, and they just can't, or at the time they were not competing with Music Matters. Now I got something I want to show you that, you know, they're trying to up their game. But this album in particular, if you like bluesy type jazz, slower type jazz, this is a good album. And look at the lineup. You got Grant Green, Paul Chambers, and Philly Joe Jones. So you can't go wrong. It is one of Quebec's better albums, although he didn't record that much with Blue Note. He was a talent scout for Francis Wolff, bringing in new musicians for him to sample, and sadly Quebec died in the early 60s, and I think it was due to heart failure. So definitely check this out. This is good if you're into slow bluesy type jazz. Now I mentioned that Analog Productions was upping their game, and I think they took a lot of lessons learned from Music Matters. And I had these two albums on pre-order. You saw in my previous video I was showing Julie London. Well, they are reissuing Julie London's catalog, and see, they're going for the gatefold look too. Nice thick stock cover, just like Music Matters. The photos, however, you know, it is a nice touch. It's black and white, but these are actually some photos from some other album covers. Like this one is from an album that she came out with in the late 60s, I believe, with a bunch of rock remakes, which is very interesting. Now, if you're into vocal jazz with a small group, this is not a bad album. This is just Julie singing with a guitarist for the most part, and it's really good. Her voice is very young, but you know, her voice is really appealing to me. If you're into small group vocal jazz, definitely check this guy out. The next one, I think this one came out in the mid-60s for Julie London. So this and the other album came out at the same time. Again, nice gatefold cover. I think both of these were featured, these photos were featured on other album covers. Not bad. I do like the nice black and white look. It's a nice touch. The cover again. This has a Latin tinge to it, so Latin in a satin mood, of course, so it's a larger setting. So she does some classics here, Vaya con Dios, Bésame Mucho. So if you're into like a Latin vocal type jazz, then yeah, this album isn't bad either. I enjoyed it. Now the next album, I don't think, a lot of folks in the United States are going to be familiar with. And to be quite honest, I wasn't familiar with this artist, and I probably would not have been if I hadn't have worked in Europe, in Germany. And while I was in Germany, I got to work with a eclectic mix of people. So there was a small grouping of Italians that I would see on a regular basis, and we would occasionally talk about music. And I asked them about popular Italian musicians and vocalists, and one of the ones that they recommend was a lady by the name of Milva. So there's three really big ones that they recommended: Milva, Mina, and Patti Pravo. And I have a number of Patti Pravo albums, and I'll probably show some of her work in a future video. This one, though, has an Argentinian tinge to it. It's called Tango. Beautiful cover. Nice gatefold. And this particular album, you know, so if you're into tango type music with, you know, Italian vocals, this is the album for you. I think this album was sampled by the Gotan Project, and if you're not familiar with the Gotan Project, they do a lot of tango styled electronic. It's worth checking out, and I think this album here is the one that took a sample from this particular album. But Italian LPs, as far as I'm aware, they're kind of a rarity, because there was a law in the 60s and 70s that you couldn't have too much backstock of LPs or you got heavily taxed for it. At least that's my understanding. And a lot of Italian LP backstock was just destroyed, so a lot of people are seeking Italian LPs because they're very rare. Like Ennio Morricone, a lot of his soundtrack work, it's very hard to find, and so they command a premium. But definitely check out Milva. Sorry, I always get Milva and Mina cross-tied. I got two more things to show folks. So the next one probably is more familiar to a number of folks. This is Thievery Corporation. This is the Cosmic Game. All of their back catalog is being reissued on vinyl, and it's been really hard to find a lot of this stuff because it's been out of print so long. They did do a printing of this album a couple years back on a double 45 set, which I also have. This one actually came to me as a gift. I haven't compared the two to see which one is better, but not an exciting gatefold. But these have been pressed on United, and you know, the pressing that I got was not bad. I'm not a big United fan, but Nashville Record Press did the mastering. If you haven't heard this particular album, it's a good one to start with for the Thievery Corporation. This one is good because they took in a lot of artists like Perry Farrell of Jane's Addiction. The first track here, Marching the Hate Machines into the Sun, they teamed up with the Flaming Lips, and it's just fantastic. It mixes jazz, samba, electronica, a little bit of Indian influence in it. I definitely recommend it. This is the one that really broke me into these guys, and so I always have fond memories of this album. Now, the last time I have to show you is kind of kitschy. I saw this and I picked it up on a whim, predominantly because the actual issues of this album, they go for big bucks, and I can't see paying $70 or more for this guy. This does not make sense, but for a $17 reissue, I thought, what the heck? I occasionally like to get Cheesecake adult album from the 50s and 60s. So this is Kay Martin and Her Bodyguards. I know what he wants for Christmas, but I don't know how to wrap it. Yeah, it's a very provocative cover. She was a singer in Vegas in the 50s and 60s, I believe, and her bodyguards were musicians as well, and so they were playing Vegas in the evening. In fact, the back cover has a nice story on it, and it says, Maples Hotel in Reno and the Sahara Hotel in Las Vegas is where they were playing. But it is a product of its time. The recording is not the best, but kind of an interesting listen. Again, I would not pay $70 for this. The original issue, if you're curious and you check it out on Discogs, it was actually a colored piece. So it's very unusual to see colored vinyl from the early 60s. So, you know, if I saw it for like $5, I'd pick it up, but definitely not for 70. So this is what I've been playing this week. I hope you enjoyed. Shoot me a comment down below, and thanks for watching. Have a great week.